Hi, I'm Amjad Atullah from the New American Foundation, and I'm here with the Palestine Note to conduct an interview with my old friend Yossi Beilin. I first met Yossi Beilin, I think, in 1999 when you were Minister of Justice in Israel. And at the time I was working on a rule of law project with the United States Institute of Peace. And Yossi's had a long and distinguished career. He's now the chairman of Beilin Corporation, and he's also the chair of the Israeli Geneva Project, which is the continuation of the Geneva Initiative, which you were on the Israeli side, the lead, and one of the key architects of concluding the Geneva Initiative.
With Yasser Abdrabov.
With Yasser Abdrabov on the Palestinian side. And you've also been an Israeli negotiator. You were at Taba, you were negotiating the refugee file at Taba with the Palestinians. So you have a long, and you were actually involved in the Oslo process as well. So you have a long and distinguished career working in not only politics, but in trying to make peace. And so you're in Washington right now, and we wanted to ask you a few questions, since we're not necessarily in the best of places right now, but you're used to that. And you've always looked at the situation when it's really bad, and you've always found a way to make it better. But before I get to the peace process, I want to talk to you about Israel and some Israeli domestic politics. Because I said you were the Israeli Minister of Justice. And now there's a Minister of Justice who seems to be interested in reintroducing halakha law, or introducing halakha law as to replace or to complement or in addition to the secular law that exists inside Israel. Halakha law, if I'm not mistaken, is very similar to Sharia law in terms of being...
Yeah, it's the same idea.
Same idea.
Yeah, the only good news about it is that it is totally nonsense. I mean, there is no chance in the world that something like this will happen. He addressed an audience of rabbis, and he told them that in the long run, it is very, very important that the original Hebrew law will dominate us. But we have to go step by step and not to do something like this immediately. And then he was, of course, scolded by everybody from the right and from the left and said, no, I didn't mean it, but he is recorded. Since he said it, I suggested that he would resign. Of course, he's not going to resign, but on the other hand, nothing will happen.
So you don't see this as part of any trend inside Israel?
No, it is a bad joke.
It's just a bad joke. Okay, well,
it's like saying here in the United States that what we have is to have the Protestant rule or whatever. I mean, if people are saying it, there is no chance that it will happen, but people may say nonsense from time to time. Yeah.
If you travel to a lot of parts of this country and see how many places are teaching creationism, you might have some concerns. Well, then let's talk about the other thing that some people are treating as a joke, which is the Israeli-Palestinian peace process. Let's start with the part that's actually working. Right now, the Israeli government is negotiating with Hamas through Germany, but it's negotiating for the release of Gilad Shalit. It's negotiating border crossings in Gaza. It's negotiating a kind of understanding with Hamas on what Hamas won't do and what Israel won't do. These negotiations sound like they're going to end up with the release of about 1,000 Palestinian prisoners in exchange for Gilad Shalit. And there was an interview on CNN yesterday with Marwan Barghouti in which he said that he expected that he was going to be one of the released prisoners. What's your opinion of this? You've been in the government before, you've had to negotiate these types of situations before. Do you think that this is a one-off, or do you think that this is something that can be transformed to break the stalemate that exists right now?
No, I don't think that this is a kind of a precedent that will be followed by negotiations between Israel and Hamas, because both sides don't want it. I mean, it is a must for Israel to negotiate on the release of the soldier, Gilad Shalit. It is a must to talk about the passages, because it is between us and them. We don't have another choice. I mean, we cannot speak regretfully with Abu Mazen about Gaza. So this is a must. But otherwise, I don't think, I mean, Hamas is very clear about it. It doesn't want to negotiate with Israel. And no Israeli, including not myself, can impose ourselves on them. So this is not a real option.
But is it a precedent in the opposite direction? If Israel was willing to negotiate a détente with Hamas, is there consideration in the Israeli government of not negotiating final status in the West Bank, but also trying to negotiate understandings for the medium term?
I would not infer it from one thing to another. I think that the current Israeli government doesn't believe in peace with the Arabs, does believe in peace with the United States. This was also the result of the kind of partial freeze of the settlement. This was peace between Israel and the United States without the involvement of the Palestinians. And the Palestinians could not accept it as a real freeze, since it is not. And it was, in my view, a farce. So if the government of Israel, the current government of Israel, which is a rightist government despite the participation of the Labour Party there, feels that it is an American interest to make peace in the Middle East, I believe that Netanyahu will follow suit. If the government feels that for the United States this is not a very high issue on its agenda, or that it gave up on it, then I don't see any future Israeli initiative to have negotiations with the Palestinians. I also do not see a Palestinian initiative to do something which is very different than the current situation, namely to ask the international community to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of the future Palestinian state, or something like this, which is declaratory only and not substantial. So I believe that the only player who really matters right now is the American player, and I'm not sure whether this player is ready to play.
Well, actually, let me ask you about that. You say you're not sure that they're ready to play. That means you think that they've sent mixed signals, or you don't think that they've been clear enough in presenting what they want to the Israeli government or to the Israeli public?
I believe that the mission of Senator Mitchell failed. I think that Mr. Mitchell should resign after 1 year in which nothing happened, but to the worse. I don't think that he can continue his mission when the parties have not even met, but for this bizarre meeting in Waldorf Astoria in September, which did not bear any fruits. This is one thing. So it was perhaps a wrong nomination, although Mitchell is a very good man. I know him personally, and he's full of good intentions, but it is a total failure. Then there was a huge mistake by putting preconditions for the negotiations. Even if these preconditions are justified by themselves, I'm totally for free zone settlements forever. But to put it as a precondition was a mistake. Then to renege on it was the second mistake. And to hope that the Palestinians can follow suit immediately. I mean, actually, the administration put Abu Mazen in an impossible situation and did not give him a ladder. So he's still there on the tree with this precondition of the freeze. The freeze is a joke. The Americans somehow complied with this joke, asking Abu Mazen to comply with it too, and he cannot do it. So the Americans have now to suggest something else, either to the Palestinians or to both sides. Like what? Like a total freeze for 3 months in which the two parties will sit together and intensively negotiate. Then to see where are the gaps between the two sides, not by the way on the leadership level, but on a level of professionals. If the gaps are bridgeable in the eyes of the American president, only then he should call for an international conference or a summit with Abu Mazen and with Netanyahu and try to bridge the gaps. Now, if it is bridgeable, fine. If in that summit nothing happens, he should suggest and expose his own plan. And maybe then put it to the UN, which is, I must say, it is a fallback in my view, a big fallback. But if you have something like this, it might work. If you don't have it, what we are going to see is more of the same. And when it is more of the same, then anything like what happened today with the mosque in the West Bank.
And just so people know, there were some Jewish settlers who set fire to a mosque in the northern West Bank in an act of arson that's created a number of disturbances in the town.
So now this is exactly what we need now, right now. That the lunatics of both sides will create a coalition. These people will set fire here, the others will set fire there, and we are going to have another eruption of violence, if it is a third intifada or some new invention or whatever. I mean, this is very dangerous. When nothing is happening, when there is no hope, and when there are no negotiations, the land is ready for any extremist on any side to set fire.
Now you're saying that you're imagining a short time frame. You're saying 3 months. Total
Yes.
freeze for 3 months. The United States basically says we have to get close enough to have a summit within 3 months, or we're going to have to put down our own plan. What do you think the realistic possibility that a government led by Bibi Netanyahu, sitting with Avigdor Lieberman and Ehud Barak, and Ehud Barak used to lead the government that you were in,
Right.
and on the Palestinian side, having Abu Mazen and Yasser Abu and Saeb Erekat at a time when the Israelis have, we imagine, just released 1,000 Palestinian prisoners to Hamas. Under those dynamics, what do you think will happen over the course of 3 months? Do you have any hope that they would be able to conclude an agreement? Do you think
They will not conclude an agreement in 3 months. There is no chance. What is possible in 3 months? Since all the work has been done, we know exactly where are we. It is just to tell the American president what are the real gaps today. And he then should, as I said, convene a summit. It is not that the professionals will finish the job. There is no chance that something like this will happen, and this should not be their mandate. It is actually, in a way, stock-taking process on details, whereby somebody can understand whether it is bridgeable at all. And you don't need more than 3 months. So if this is the suggestion, for Netanyahu it might be not so difficult because he already agreed for something for 10 months. So it is a kind of easier thing for him to accept 3 months. For Abu Mazen it will be enough because 1 day of freeze for Abu Mazen is better than 10 months in which Israel calls it a freeze and doesn't freeze really. And for the Americans, I believe that something that this is not so difficult. I mean, what I'm suggesting is something which is totally procedural. I'm not thinking about the substance.
Okay, if I were working with the State Department, I think what they would ask you is, what will Israel's response be if we put this out? Will Israel say, yes, that's fine, that's a great idea?
I'll tell you exactly.
What will they do?
If you ask Israel in advance, maybe they will say that they are not enthusiastic about it. But if you tell both sides you are invited for such a process, I don't believe that any of them will reject it.
That's a very interesting idea. And then at the end of that, when the United States is ultimately going to have to present its own ideas, do you have any recommendations? The Geneva Initiative group just finished producing a number of annexes on security and on other issues. Do you really think that the work that's been continued between the Israelis and the Palestinians through the Geneva track is going to end up, can be helpful in forming the basis for an American proposed agreement?
Mutatis mutandis. I mean, Geneva is not the Quran or the Bible. This is just a way to prove that everything is bridgeable if you really believe in peace. If you don't believe in peace, nothing is bridgeable. So what I'm suggesting is to use our material and other material. We are not the only ones in this field. If there is a competition or if there is something else on the economy or other issues, and to finish the job and to suggest a blueprint. I mean, I really believe that it is about time, that it will not be just the Clinton parameters which vanished with Clinton, but something which is there that the whole world will know. That this is a reasonable solution. This is something that no Palestinian will love, no Israeli will love, but reasonable people on both sides will say, you know what, it's better than a continuation of the current situation.
One last question. You seem obviously still very passionate about all of these issues that you've worked on most of your life. Any chance that you're going to get back into politics at some point?
No, I will not get back into politics, but I'm in policy affairs, I'm dealing with issues, I'm a disappearing, I'm meeting people, and I do whatever I can still in order to promote peace in our part of the world. We deserve it, I think, at least our kids.
Amen to that. It's great to see you again, Yossi. Thank you.